I'm having trouble with the teacher.
I need your help.
I don't know what to do about my friend.
I've been getting really bad anxiety.
Can you talk to my
I need help.
I've got no idea.
It's going to be too much for my
I'm
grades.
gonna
I'm
get this done.
freaking out.
Hey guys, I thought that with everything going on, I would do a little video for you guys. I know that a lot of the times when stuff does happen in the world, in the school, in your lives, one of the ways that we kind of process that is through our group discussions, our counseling discussions. So I thought I'd make this little video and look at anxiety, specifically kind of how you get stuck in it, how anxiety can kind of overwhelm you, and then look at some strategies and dealing with that and kind of moving forward. Certainly something that I think I'm facing, friends, family members I've talked to are kind of processing, and I'm sure you guys are as well. So I want to start by looking at something that should be familiar to everybody who's been in my classes before, the cognitive behavioral triangle. Right? And so I just want to briefly go through this just to remind you, for those of you who aren't always paying attention in my classes. But this is basically a way of understanding our thoughts, our feelings, and then our kind of body responses to that. And then as we kind of look from left to right, we see we have an input or a trigger, right? We have our processing, and then we have the output or the behavior. The kind of go-to example that I kind of talk to you guys about normally is, you guys know that I hate public speaking, right? And so my trigger would be, all right, I've got to give a speech in front of the entire school. And if I want my behavior, the output, to be positive, to be me not forgetting my lines, getting sweaty, getting nervous, if I want that to be a positive experience, I can control that through this middle part, right? This is my processing. And you notice that as you look at these lines, they're bidirectional, meaning that any one of these affects the other two. So my thoughts will affect my body sensations and my feelings, just as my feelings will affect my thoughts and body sensations. And how we process all of these, how we change these behaviors or these thoughts, will affect the other ones. Right? And so we'll come back to this some more, but I just wanted to kind of give you guys a refresher for those of you who have forgotten. So anxiety, it's, as we've talked, anxiety is a kind of normal feeling, a normal reaction that we can have, and feeling that on occasion is totally fine. It's something that actually can be positive as we learn these kind of tools to grow from it. What we want to avoid, though, is when anxiety causes us to get stuck in it. And that happens normally through kind of a negative downward spiral, and those feelings, those thoughts then controlling us and us not being able to kind of move forward with our life. And so this can look a couple of ways, right? You've probably either done this yourself, had friends do this. You might use catastrophizing or imagining the worst possible scenario, right? I'm getting ready to give a speech and I imagine that everybody's going to laugh at me, right? That's me making this into a very big deal. It could be mind reading or kind of imagining what people are going to think ahead of time. So I go into it thinking, oh, they're going to think that I sound stupid. They're going to think that I don't know what I'm talking about. Fortune telling is another way, right? Kind of predicting the future without facts to support that. So again, that's similar to the other two, and that's kind of, again, thinking ahead, right? I'm going to go in there and I'm going to forget my lines, even though I know what I'm talking about. I've studied, I've written things down, I've done this speech before. If I start predicting the future without kind of using those facts, I can then feel anxious. And the other one is black and white thinking. So only imagining two possible outcomes. And usually the way our brain looks at this as, here's the best possible scenario, here's the worst possible scenario, and not thinking about all the things in between. Right? Okay, so how do we combat that? Well, there's a couple of ways. One is we would pause the pattern, right? So we get in here, we have this trigger, and your body sensation is, for somebody who's feeling anxiety about public speaking, it might be rapid heartbeats, it might be sweaty palms. That's kind of a predictable response. And so the first thing you can do is, by pausing this pattern, which is to then engage the thinking part of your brain. And so it might be to start working on something that engages your mind. Could be math, science, doing another project that really engages your mind completely, so that it pauses that body response, right? That fight or flight response then stops. And you do this enough times and you can start to kind of train your body that that's not how you want it to respond. Another one would be name your response, right? So I just gave you a couple of options, right? The mind reading, the fortune telling. Again, by naming what that reaction is, you can start to gain some control over it. So you can start to, again, it engages that kind of cerebral, more thinking side of your brain where you're going, okay, I'm feeling anxious. My palms are sweaty. I'm getting nervous, right? But I can understand why. And by understanding the reasons, you can then take steps to overcoming it. Another thing that might work is creating a list. So looking at maybe one side of, here are all my worries, here are all the things that I'm scared of, here are all the things that are giving me anxiety. And then on the other side, looking at, okay, here are all the facts, right? Here's everything that I know to be true, right? So my worry list might be, again, the things that I've mentioned. I'm going to forget my lines. People are going to laugh. People aren't going to pay attention. And then on the other side, it'd be, I've given this speech before. I know my information. It's going to be a good presentation, right? Like there's things I can start to write down to kind of counterbalance that. And again, it's slowing down that kind of emotional response, those body sensations, right? And training our body that we can overcome this. Another option, and I've talked to you guys a lot about this, is then looking at different outcomes, right? So addressing that, looking at black or white outcomes, and instead maybe I write down a couple of ways that this could go. So here's the worst possible scenario. I write that down. Everyone laughs, they get up, they throw fruit at me, and they walk out of the auditorium. Best possible outcome, everyone is roaring in applause. It's the greatest speech they ever heard. Now, again, neither of those are probably likely. And so then what are some other things that might happen, right? Some people are engaged, some people are not, right? A lot of people applaud, some people don't pay attention, or maybe some people raise their hand and have questions, right? Again, just kind of going through what are all the different possibilities. And this is, again, to just train your mind that you don't always you can't predict the future, right? And that anxiety is that kind of fear of the unknown. And the last piece of advice would be, what advice would you give to a friend? So if I came to you and I was like, hey, I'm feeling very anxious about this speech, what advice would you give me? And again, trying to think from that unemotional side and talking through the reasons that somebody doesn't need to feel nervous or doesn't need to feel scared, and then trying to give that advice to yourself. So again, if we go back to this cognitive behavioral triangle, right, and I've given you a bunch of options, when you get triggered, when you realize what it is that has kind of set you on this anxiety downward spiral, then looking at what parts can you control, right? Because if you can change just one of these sides and make it a positive experience, then the other sides will start to become more positive as well. So again, if I just take, right, I'm triggered and I've got my speech to give, and my first thought is I'm going to do terrible. So then I feel really nervous, I feel scared, and then my body response is that sweaty palms, it's heart palpitations. If I were to instead think I could have the same, or I could change my thought here and be like, well, actually, I kind of know what I'm going to talk about. I've prepared, I've done my homework, I know what to expect. My feeling might be, it's probably not going to completely change to, well, now I'm psyched. But now it might be kind of a manageable, well, I'm a little bit nervous, but I'm feeling okay. So my body response then probably won't be that fight or flight response. And so I probably won't walk in now feeling very nervous, feeling, sweaty palms and heart palpitations. I'll probably be a little bit more confident and get a better outcome. So again, I know this is a time where you guys are all facing a lot of uncertainties. I think all of us are as well. But there are little things that we can do to control how we feel, how we go about the day. And hopefully this will help. Again, as we tell you in every email and every video, please contact myself, Ms. Wellington, Mr. Jefferson. We're always here for you. If you have a question, you can email. If you want to set up an appointment, we've given you the links. We're happy to talk whenever about anything that you're struggling with. I know this is a new reality, and hopefully we're all going to support each other. And, we're certainly here for you in any way that we can be. So I hope you guys are all doing great, and I will talk to you guys soon.